The story kicks off with a young man on his way to work, just like any other day. But then, out of nowhere, he loses his ability to see while stuck in traffic. When the traffic light switches to green, and he can't move his car, the drivers behind him start honking impatiently. Some kind-hearted city folks approach the man and discover that he's gone blind all of a sudden. A kind stranger named X steps up and offers to drive the blind man home and sort out the traffic mess. On their way to the man's fancy apartment, he describes his sudden loss of vision as if he's surrounded by blinding whiteness, like swimming in a pool of milk. Finally, they reach the blind man's upscale apartment. But as soon as he steps out of the car, the so-called rescuer makes a run for it, taking off with the blind man's vehicle. Later, the blind man's wife returns home, shocked to find her husband in this condition. She decides to rush him to a local eye doctor. The eye doctor carefully examines the man's eyes but can't figure out why he's gone blind so suddenly. Typically, when people lose their sight, everything goes dark, but this man is seeing pure white. The doctor sends him to the hospital for further tests. Meanwhile, the guy who stole the blind man's car gets caught at a police checkpoint. In a panic, he illegally changes lanes and ditches the car. But before he can make a clean getaway, karma catches up to him, and he too suddenly loses his sight, just like the man he stole from. Back at home, the doctor tells his wife about this strange illness he's encountered. After sharing the dinner that she cooked for him, he stays up late, researching this mysterious condition. By the next morning, 2 more people fall victim to this strange ailment: a local sex worker who always wears dark glasses and, shockingly, the doctor himself. The doctor's wife tries to examine his eyes, but he shoves her away, fearing he might infect her with this bizarre condition. However, she refuses to let him push her away and assures him that she'll stay safe. Meanwhile, in various parts of the city, more people are struck blind, sparking widespread panic. The government takes notice of the situation and prepares a quarantine facility in an old, run-down asylum. A team of individuals dressed in hazmat suits arrives at the doctor's house to take him away. Concerned for her husband, the doctor's wife sneaks into the van with him, pretending to be blind, so she can be with him in isolation. Inside the facility, they've divided into different sections, and each section has to choose a leader to represent them and communicate with the outside world. In the doctor's section, they have the woman who always wears dark glasses, the first blind man, the car thief, and a young boy. Tensions flare when the first blind man recognizes the voice of the car thief, leading to a fight. The doctor steps in to break it up and becomes the de facto leader of their section. The doctor's wife takes on the role of teaching the blind residents how to navigate the corridors. As more blind individuals arrive at their section, including the first blind man's wife, the facility becomes increasingly overcrowded, stretching its capacity to the limit. As the number of infected individuals continues to rise, conditions in the facility deteriorate rapidly due to government neglect. The walls and floors become filthy with filth and feces, and people's hope dwindles. Anxiety mounts over the availability of food, as deliveries become irregular and unreliable. The guards outside the asylum grow more hostile, and the government refuses to provide basic medicines, turning even minor infections into deadly threats. The situation inside the facility becomes a struggle not only against blindness but also against the deteriorating living conditions and the harsh treatment by those in charge. One day, inside the crowded quarantine facility, the doctor's wife encounters an elderly man wearing an eye patch. He resides in a different section but requests to transfer to the doctor's ward. The old man possesses a radio, which catches the attention of the doctor's wife. She agrees to let him change wards, hoping that his radio might bring some connection to the outside world. The old man begins to share his knowledge with the doctor and the other residents in their ward through the radio. He reveals that the sudden blindness, known as the white sickness, has spread globally, with hundreds of new cases surfacing every day. Governments worldwide convened numerous meetings and discussions in search of a solution, but the situation spiraled out of control, and the world outside has ground to a halt. Tragedy strikes when a blind man from a recent batch of arrivals strays from his group and is ruthlessly shot by the soldiers guarding the facility. Panic ripples through the residents, resulting in 2 more casualties during a stampede. The following day, the soldiers show a complete lack of empathy by tossing a shovel over the quarantine facility's wall and ordering the infected individuals to bury the bodies of those killed in the previous incident. In response, the doctor suggests a fair distribution of labor, with each ward being responsible for burying 1 body. However, the people in Ward 3 object, unwilling to take responsibility for individuals they don't even know. A clash ensues between the doctor and Ward 3's self-proclaimed leader, who declares himself as the king of their section. Amidst the chaos and despair, the radio and the old man's knowledge offer a glimmer of hope. In the days that follow, the thief, now unable to walk due to an infection, discovers the truth about the doctor's wife. He confronts her, pleading for her help in escaping so he can seek treatment for his worsening condition. However, the doctor's wife rebuffs his pleas, denying any wrongdoing on her part. Frustrated and impatient for treatment, the thief makes a daring escape attempt one night but tragically ends up fatally shot by the facility's guards. Guilt-ridden over the thief's death, the doctor's wife confides in her husband, feeling responsible. The doctor reassures her that she's doing her best to survive. She insists she should have been honest about her eyesight, leading to the doctor's frustration and a scolding for taking on a maternal role for everyone. Amid this turmoil, the self-proclaimed king of Ward 3 and his followers seize control over the food provided by the government. They forced everyone to surrender their valuable possessions in exchange for meager rations, even though these items held sentimental value for the infected residents. The doctor's wife hides scissors in her waistband, and the receptionist takes her lighter. The doctor's wife hangs the scissors on the TV rack. The doctor reluctantly gives their belongings to the blind accountant, initially mocking his lack of empathy but later realizing his blindness through braille writing. When the king offers a ration box with small portions, the doctor complains, leading the king to use a gun to restore order. As days pass and desperation sets in, the doctor and his wife grow distant. Their frustration at their helplessness strains their relationship. One day, the doctor's wife finds him distressed. Unexpectedly, the woman with dark glasses comforts him, but their connection takes a regrettable turn, leading to an intimate encounter. Overwhelmed by guilt, they regret their actions, especially when the doctor's wife discovers them. In a moment of apology, the woman confesses and learns about her eyesight condition. The next day, tensions rise as the self-proclaimed leader, known as the king, demands women for food. The residents refused, leading to a 3-day standoff. Desperate for sustenance, the doctor's wife attempts to seek aid from the soldiers stationed outside. However, she is met with a cold response, as the soldiers inform her that they have already received their weekly food supplies, placing the responsibility of distribution solely on the people within the facility. In this atmosphere of strained bonds, unexpected alliances, and survival under extreme circumstances, the residents face not only the threat of blindness but also the harsh realities of isolation and scarcity. With desperation for food reaching its peak, people inside the facility grapple with the morally agonizing decision of whether to comply with the demands of Ward 3. They turn to the doctor for guidance in this harrowing choice. However, the doctor, overwhelmed and powerless, can only advise them to follow their hearts and instincts. One by one, the women in their ward volunteer to endure a horrifying fate, offering themselves as sexual slaves to the men of Ward 3. The king of Ward 3, driven by his lust for power, forces himself on the doctor's wife. In this nightmarish environment, one of the women is subjected to a brutal beating that ultimately claims her life. The following day, Ward 3's men extend their reign of terror, seizing the women from Ward 2. As they return, a man from Ward 3 taunts the doctor's wife, pushing her to her breaking point. She reaches her limit and, driven by a deep-seated rage, takes a pair of scissors to Ward 3's leader, assassinating him in a shocking act of vengeance. She boldly informs the men of Ward 3 that they will never discover her true identity, then walks away with the women she's rescued. However, her husband, the doctor, is more preoccupied with the looming possibility of a war than the act of revenge. He remains indifferent to her actions, consumed by concerns for their safety. Word quickly spreads about the assassination of the king of Ward 3, triggering anxiety and fear of retaliation among the residents of Wards 1 and 2. In anticipation of potential conflict, they hastily fortify their walls, preparing for a brutal battle for survival in their isolated and tumultuous world. With the group in turmoil over whether to reveal the person responsible for the assassination of Ward 3's leader, the doctor's wife nearly steps forward to take responsibility. However, she is interrupted by the radio man, who proposes a daring plan to retrieve their food supply themselves. Thus, the group begins plotting a strategy for their rebellion. One brave girl from Ward 1 sneaks into Ward 3, setting a chair ablaze to create a diversion. This provides Ward 1 with the perfect opportunity to approach Ward 3 armed and ready. Unfortunately, the fire quickly spreads to all the wards, plunging the facility into chaos. Panic-stricken, everyone rushes outside, only to discover that the guards have vanished. To their amazement, the doors are unlocked, finally allowing them to escape from their nightmarish confinement. As they explore the city, they witness society's collapse, with blind individuals roaming the desolate streets. The doctor and his wife scavenge for supplies, trying to reconnect emotionally. Despite his efforts, her coldness persists. In a supermarket, they find empty shelves and hunger-fueled paranoia fills the air. In the basement, she discovers a hidden stash of food. Excitedly, she gathers supplies, but hungry people catch on and attack her. The doctor rushes to help, and they narrowly escape. Later, realizing he left his clothes behind, the doctor returns. While he retrieves them, his wife, weary and dismayed, watches as a pack of dogs feeds on a dead man, a grim reminder of their desperate struggle for survival. In a sudden turn of events, a friendly dog appears, offering companionship to the doctor's wife. As rain begins to fall, they seek shelter together, with the dog following her inside. Soon, the doctor returns with his recovered clothes, and they both put on jackets before heading back to their refuge. Outside, the residents revel in the rain, finding solace and joy in this brief respite from their dire circumstances. Their faces light up with happiness, even if only for a fleeting moment. The following day, the doctor's wife guides the group to their former home, relieved to find it untouched by intruders and still standing. She embarks on a mission to clean up the disheveled place, determined to create a sense of comfort and belonging for everyone. Inside, they band together, working as a cohesive unit, almost like one big family. Later, the three women share a joyful shower, laughing and cherishing the experience. The doctor's wife describes their appearances, a sight they haven't seen in a long time, further strengthening their bond. That evening, the radio man expresses his gratitude, acknowledging the goodness he's encountered among their group during these challenging times. He envisions a future where they can continue to live together harmoniously. During dinner, the doctor's wife cheerfully narrates the items on the table and their locations, prompting an awkward but heartwarming toast, followed by shared laughter. That night, the doctor and his wife finally share an intimate moment, expressing their deep love for one another. The following morning, the doctor's wife rises early to prepare her special coffee for everyone. Suddenly, the first man among them begins to see his surroundings. Filled with a mix of shock and joy, he exclaims the beauty of everything he sees. The news spreads like wildfire, filling everyone with hope that their sight may soon return as well. Their newfound optimism brings a glimmer of hope, reminding them that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can find moments of joy, togetherness, and the possibility of a brighter future.